Hi, hello everyone. So today we're going to have a look at a case study. Um, so we're going to have a look at user-centered design. And we've talked about user-centered design before, and we've had a look at the principles in a previous video. So go and check that out. But today I decided what we'll do is we'll have a look at two different websites, which and we'll have a look at some of the principles that are backing this up. Okay, so I suppose we'll just grab right in it. Now, it's quite interesting, but when I was picking these, I was obviously picking these on the basis that one of them was superior to the other. But I've since kind of come around to the idea that maybe they fulfill different, maybe this is where I kind of need to check myself what the end user is at. So remember, user-centered design is you put the user at the center of your design process, of your software design process. Okay, so you look at the who's going to use it, where are they going to use it, how are they going to use it, why are they using it for, the accessibility of it in different formats. So this is all these different things. When you're planning a program that's going to be used by someone else, it's centering that design process on that end user. So the two websites I'm going to look at are, in a way they're similar and in a way they're different. So the first one I'm going to look at is Gmail. Okay, so I hope you can see this. I've just kind of I've screen captured the Gmail from the internet. So first of all, we'll have a look at it in terms of different different user-centered design principles, and see where it ticks the boxes, for want of a better word. So let's just have a quick look at it. Okay, so first thing I can see when I look at a Gmail is it's segmented. Okay, so we've got a section over here which is collapsible. Okay, then we've got a section over here which has your emails. Then you've got another tiny little section over here with links, and then at the top you've got another little section with other links. So it seems quite basics, but I suppose, like, when the Google people were deciding to design this, I suppose let's think of it in terms of the end user. Who is this designed for? Is this designed for every human being on the planet? Probably it is in a way, but I can see this being more designed for people who are comfortable with a technology. Okay, I'll give you my reasons for that in the first one. But first of all, let's go with the very basic things. Okay, if you're not comfortable with this technology, with this internet, usage thing. Let's say you're like an 80-year-old person who has no real interest, or you're like someone from a background where they really weren't introduced to any technology. Is there enough here to be able to get them through? And yes, there is. Okay, what you can see is clear headings. So in this little part of the middle section, you've got who has sent you an email. Okay, so that's pretty obvious. You don't need to be a genius, as long as you can read. Okay, they've told you the numbers. Okay, they've given you a quick synopsis of what the email is about. Okay, and most importantly, it seems to be color coded, and those color codes corresponds to colors in this, which they've obviously built in to allow for a certain amount of archive and sub categorization. Okay, so again, they're taking a number of of user-centered design. They're building this for users who will require different levels of functionality within the one frame. So some people will really want to micromanage their emails and create loads of different storage systems for emails, and that's built in, so it allows them to color code. Whereas it's also built in for the person who literally just wants to see who sent it and see a quick blurb of what they sent. Okay, very simple things. They have a plus button for the compose. Okay, you can see it's quite large, okay, compared to the other little buttons. So again, they're designing it for people who, if they don't understand how to use all this stuff, they can at least press this button and they can create an email. Okay, so that's quite handy. They also have a kind of a replica of a search bar built into the Gmail, again, for people who maybe want to find something but don't want to go down this subcategorization route. They can just type in a keyword or something from an email and it'll search through and find those emails. So again, you can see who this is built for. It's built for multiple uses by multiple types of people. Okay, from the very, very, media conscious and social media concerts, because it has links to Google Meets and all those other type of things built into something here. I'm sure it has, to the fact that it has the Google 9 buttons, which obviously gives you access to all the other Google things like Google Drive, Google Docs, and all that type of stuff. That's all in there. Okay, so quite well thought out of. In other words, this is what this is an all-in-one rainbow colored user design centered experience. It's literally built for the every person who could possibly want to use email, but ranging from person who wants extreme levels of functionality to people who just literally want the most basic thing on the planet. So it's built for all those kind of different layers of people. So which means that it's obviously very, very, very well done. Now, this is not the first iteration of Gmail. I remember the first iteration of Gmail, and it's a lot different than that. Which brings us on to our second candidate. So this one I picked because it's Irish, and it'd be familiar to a lot of people. The ever notorious, and I suppose you know when you see it, boards. Okay, so boards is what I would consider the quintessential pared down evolution of social media. Okay, so when I started on the internet, I'm talking about a long time ago, you had things very similar to boards. They were called alts. Okay, alt repositories. Okay, and you could just go on them and you could chat and leave messages and stuff like that. And in reality, is boards has literally not evolved one iota from that point. So if we just have a look at it, very similar to Gmail, you've got a search. Okay, but that's probably where all the similarities is. Okay, everything else is tab form. You can see this. Okay, and you've got forum, you've got title, you've got topic, you've got post, you've got the number of thanks, you've got the person who starts the topic, and then you've got the latest person who's posted something. Okay, it is very, very simple. It is literally just click, click, click. Okay, no colors. All colors are the same. You can see that. It's all shades of blue, gray, and white. Okay, it's built for someone who wants the minimum amount of functionality, but the maximum amount of information. Okay, so you will tend to find that the people on boards will be, while they will use Gmail, they will be of a different demographic than who Gmail is meant to be for everyone. So from 2 years old to 200 years old, it has the full range of functionality that anyone at any comfort level of technical ability would require. This is for everyone, but the functionality has been pared down to a minimum, which in a way leads itself to pushing it towards a more mature audience in a way. I don't want to say older, but maybe an audience that doesn't require or doesn't need anything more than click, write, respond. Okay, there's no embedded features that link it into any other social media, unlike Gmail, which has loads of add-ons. Okay, it's very, very simple. You can see that it's built, I suppose, on the frame of something that's been used for quite a long time. Now, does that make it bad? No, it doesn't. Okay, It's like a lot of these online forums, like, you know, the only difference between this and Reddit is the fact that I'd say just the level of moderatorship would be the only difference. This would be very heavily moderated, extremely heavily moderated. Reddit probably less so, slightly less so, but you know, Reddit's gotten a lot more moderated in the last couple of years, interestingly enough. And obviously, both of them will be a lot more rather moderated than the likes of 4chan or 5chan or some of those more deep, as you go deeper into the web. Okay, obviously, who is it aimed at? It was obviously aimed at a lot of mainly Irish people, obviously, but Irish people with particular interests. Okay, so while something like Reddit or 4chan is just, you know, while people who are interested create their own little subreddits or little threads on 4chan, these are moderated, all these threads and these forums are moderated. So, you know, there's a lot more buy-in in this type of community. Now, interesting enough, if I was to bring up a picture, if I was to photocopy a picture of Reddit, it wouldn't be so much different. The layout might be slightly different, but it's built on that same basic what old-fashioned ALT repository type of stuff, you know, because it does lend itself to that. You know, I suppose where this is slightly different, as I said, it's just the nature. It is very, very sequential. So, for example, in boards, when you click into the latest post, all posts are in order. They're not voted up and down like they are in Reddit, so there's no democratization of the content. Now, that's interesting because that means that it's harder for one voice to upvote or downvote or outvote another voice. So you get more of a kind of a ubiquitous kind of usage. But just from the design point of view, the back end design of this would be quite simple. You know, literally all you have is various pages, sub pages, and that you're just posting to a new page. When I go back to the Gmail, if I find it here, when I go back to the Gmail, the back-end design of this is very complicated when you think about it, because while you think you're just sending emails and that's just using, you know, different protocols, which we've talked about in the past, the reality is there's so much more going on here, because all this is obviously being hosted through your Gmail, your G server, your G drive, whatever you want to call it. So it also integrates everything else that Gmail has, which makes it a lot more technical in order to get it to work. They've also introduced features on this, and again, this will be user design. This is obviously, but when you press send for about 10 seconds, an undo comes up, so they hold it hold it in the server before delivering it for about 10 seconds, just in case you made a mistake and you want to undo, which is quite handy. It really wasn't a minute, like, you know what I mean? But obviously that's in response to people wanting that done. Other things that this will do, and again, user-centered design, when people in the early days of online cloud storage, what they would do is they would upload an email and send it to themselves, and that way they'd have a copy of whatever they were sending, whether it was a file or a picture. Now, when you send an email and you open it, it's automatically saved into your drive. So you're not having to do that. So it's integrating the cloud with the actual Gmail, which again, you don't see at the front end, but you do at the back end. And again, you know, from an interface point of view, you can see why that is. And that actually, we'll talk about the interfaces now, but while we're at it, the interface, this is very, very clean. Okay, you can see it's segmented off. Okay, so if you don't mind me doing this, so you've got this area 1, then you've actually got an area here. This is all area 2, but it has a sub area, if you can see that. Okay, and then you've got what I would consider the third area, this area 3. Okay, And this area 3 has all the kind of the stuff that's built in by Google. Okay, so I don't know if you see there's calendar. I can't remember what that is, but I know this one is kind of like reminders or notes or something like that. And then of course the 9 dots, the most important one if you want to dive into the cloud, into the Google Cloud, really. So you have 3 separate areas, and then one of the areas is subdivided. Okay. And then obviously at the top you've got, whereas if you look, so from an interface point of view, it's very informative. It's segmented, but it's not segmented in a way that, it's subconsciously done. There's no clear delineation, but yet your eye can find what's not in that area very quickly. You know what I mean? It wasn't as though that this photocopy didn't come out with the lines. There is no line there, but yet there's a line there. There's a clear delineation from this to this, and from this to this, and from there out. There is a clear delineation. It's not heavily done. If I go back to this one, the interface is a lot more stark. You definitely have columns and lines and columns and lines, and everything is in a kind of an Excel-y style, logical way. Read down, read across, there you go, tab form. Okay, so it's very much in that vein. So again, from a user, this is a lot more harsh, a lot more utilitarian in terms of it does exactly what it says on the tin. You can find what you need pretty quickly. If you've never used boards before, after a minute, you'd understand how it works. Whereas if you've never used Gmail before, there's probably a steeper learning curve. Now, when I say that, it's probably not a steep learning curve to send an email. Click, enter email, send. That's not the steep learning curve, but to get the full functionality out of this is probably a steeper learning curve in terms of a user experience than it is to use this, which is interesting. But I suppose that's a function of what this is designed to do. This is meant to be an entire suit of armor of stuff that you can use to run your business, run your life. Okay, it's meant to be totally integratable with every other aspect of your Android experience. If you're using a phone or a tablet, or if you're using a PC even, or a Chromebook, it's meant to be totally integratable with all that. So you can see why, to get the full whack or the full money's worth out of your Gmail experience, is probably a steeper learning curve than there is for simple things like boards. Okay, but there's just 2 kind of case studies on the user experience. I mean, as a Leaving Cert, you're just meant to highlight a few of them, talk about them. I've talked an awful lot about them, but just pick a couple of areas where you think that one's better than the other, or where maybe have something in common. And to me, the striking thing in common is the fact that they both have search bars. So search bar is still ubiquitous in most of these things, because people, at the end of the day, the simplest thing to do is just ask for help by typing something into a search bar. And that tends to be where you're going. All right. Okay. Thank you very much. Bye.